All right, so we've made all of the different wall types that we're going to integrate into our first stacked wall. If you take a look at this, take a look at this rendering here. This is basically where we're heading. We're heading for this stacked wall right here. We're type. We have a second floor wall. We have that bond that we made. We have the first floor wall. Uh, we have the first floor bond that we made. There's a little brick ledge here, which is hard to see. And then we have that basement floor. So we have the basement wall, our brick ledge. On top of that, we have that little bond. On top of that, we have the wall. On top of that, we have the bond. On top of that, we have the second floor wall. And then on top of the second floor wall, we have these two pieces, but we're going to start out without putting those two pieces and just make this one simple second floor wall. So coming over to a floor plan, we're going to say architecture tab, wall, and we're going to come down to Revit gives us one stacked wall to begin with. We can edit the type and duplicate it. Now I've already made that, so you're gonna duplicate it and call it exterior house wall. So we have what's called, we're going to take this original stacked wall, which Revit has supplied, and we're going to modify it so that it's our exterior stacked wall or exterior house wall. So just like the other walls that we made, now we're going to have a series of stacked walls on. We're going to put those all on top of each other. So we're going to start the top of the table here. The very top component on that table will be the top of the wall, and the very bottom component of this table will be the base or the bottom of the wall. So we're going to start to begin with, and we're going to say that this is just the second floor wall, which is number 7. So we're looking for number 7. And here it is. Okay. Now, let's minimize this a little bit here and take a look at, well, what's the height of number 7? Well, it's 8 foot 0 and 5/8. So we're going to say that the height of that, I'll explain the variable in a second. So the height of that wall is 8 feet 0 and 5/8 of an inch. That makes sense. We said that from the second floor to the second floor, top of the second floor was 8 foot 0 and 5/8. So we just put that wall in and we made it 8 foot 0 and 5/8. Now the next thing is going to be the bond, which is this area right here. And we're saying that it's a foot. So the second floor bond is going to be number 6. So we can change this to number 6. See how easy that was because we remembered the names. And I don't want to explain the variable yet, but we're going to put some more rows in, obviously. So let's just do that right now. We'll just put a whole bunch more rows in. Okay, so number 6, we said was going to be a foot tall. Okay, so we can change the height of that to 1 foot. Remember that Revit thinks that the number that you put in is in feet, so you don't have to type the foot symbol. I only typed 1 and hit enter, and Revit assumed that that's 1 foot. So now we have 2 pieces here. We have our second floor wall and our bond. We're telling it to line it up from the center line, so all of these are lining up on the center line, which is a mistake. We want to line it up with the finished face exterior. See how all of the outside of the house now is going to line up like that? So let's see what's next. Well, we have our second floor wall, we have our second floor bond, and now we need our first floor wall. So the first floor wall is number 4, So we'll switch this guy right here to number 4. And now that happens to be that. And what is the height of number 4? That's from the first floor to the first top of the first floor wall is 10 foot 0 and 5/8. So we're going to change that to 10 feet 0 and 5/8 inches. Okay. What happened here? It didn't work for me. So let's do it again. 10 feet 0 and 5/8 inches. Okay, now it did. Okay, so we take a look at that. We want that wall to be 10 foot 0 and 5/8. The next component is the bond, which is right here. And that is 1 foot 1.5 inches. So we're going to take the first floor bond, which is number 3, and we're going to make that 1 foot 1 and 1/2 inches. Okay, we have it right here. It said 1 foot 1.5 is the height of it. We've put it in there. There it is. Starting to look pretty good here. We're assembling all of the different wall types. Now the next thing is what we call the brick ledge. We made that brick ledge. It's number 2. So we'll change this from 6 to 2. See how easy that is. And how tall is the brick ledge? That brick ledge is not dimensioned. So it's the difference between 2 feet and 1 foot 1.5. So that would be 11, looks like about 10.5 inches. Let's try that to begin with. My math might be wrong there. 10.5 inches. So if we add it up, we know that the whole distance is 2 feet. We know that it's 1 foot 1.5. So if we add 1 foot 1.5 and 10.5, we get 10, 11, 12. So that's right, it's 2 feet. Okay, not so bad. The next wall type is this basement wall, which is the number 1. So we're going to change that to number 1. And if we zoom in and take a look at that now, that's essentially our stacked wall that we want. We have our second floor wall here. We have our bond here. We have our first floor wall here. We have our first floor bond here. We have our brick ledge here. And we have our basement wall here. So we have all of the components that we want. Now, when we put this stacked wall into our project, we have to tell Revit what the top of the wall is. If you look over here in the properties, you can see what is the top constraint. We have to tell it what is the top constraint. In this case, we're going to say the top constraint is the top of the second floor wall. It's going to ask us what's the base constraint, and we're going to say that it's the bottom of the basement wall. And then Revit will put this stacked wall into our project. But we have to pay attention to what the heights of all of these components are. In other words, here's where we're going to get an error messages, and that is if we try to put this stacked wall with all of these different wall heights that we have right here, if we try to put that into a height, meaning from the base to the top, that is less than the dimensions of the components of that wall, then it won't fit. So let's say you have a ruler that's 12 inches tall, and I ask you to put that into a shoebox, which is only 8 inches tall. It's not going to fit. So we have to make sure that the constraints that we set are equal to or greater than the heights of all of the individual components. So that is step 1 of the concept. And step 2 is there has to be a variable, because we may say that, these are all fixed heights. But in order for Revit to satisfy our base constraint and our top constraint, there may be a condition where something has to either be compressed or it has to be expanded. And this is the component that we allow to be compressed or expanded. So if I wanted this wall to be 100 foot tall, all of these components here would be at these sets, and then Revit would make this wall the variable height in order to satisfy the desire for it to be 100 foot tall. If I wanted it to be 50 feet tall, again, all of these objects are going to stay exactly what I've set them at, and Revit will change the height of this wall to make the total height of this stacked wall 50 feet. And so I think we have everything in to begin with. Let's say okay, and we'll say okay to that. Now let's pay attention to the constraints. The base constraint we want to be the bottom of the basement wall, and the top constraint we want to be the top of the second floor wall. And we've paid very close attention to our constraints. We're going to say okay to that. And now I'll draw that wall across here, just as an example. And notice that we did not receive any kind of error message. And if I use the camera to take a picture of this wall, there it is. Okay, all of the pieces are very similar to what we have right here, only this is a rendering and this is, and so we've put all of those pieces in there. If we go back to this level and if we go back to this level and we cut a section through there, let's do that real quick. Go to that view. Look at that. See how I'm going to come down here and change the resolution of my presentation from coarse to fine, and that shows me all of the pieces in there. But look at this. All of these components now are lined up with what they're supposed to be as far as the level goes. There's the bottom of my basement wall. There's the top of my second floor wall, and all of those components are exactly in the right location because I paid attention to what the distances were here and made sure that my walls equal those heights. And so now I have my first stacked wall, and you take some time to make your first stacked wall, but that's what we want to have as our first stacked wall for this class is exactly what we've done. We've spent some time, we made these components, and then we've made our stacked wall. Now we'll come back for the next tutorial and we'll add these two pieces to this part of the house because we didn't put that in yet.